Hi guys, it's Danilo's Code, and today I want to discuss what's the difference between int and integer types in Java. So you might have faced this interesting thing in Java when you have two different representations of the same thing, like this, int x or integer y. We also have the similar thing for double, for boolean, for long, byte, character, etc. And it might be confusing at first, but I hope after this video you'll understand what's the difference between them and why do you need different types of the representations. So let's start with the int. So let's copy this and paste it here. So we have int a is equal to 104. So what can we do with this a? Not too much. We can add something to it. Let's do a sout. Oops. Sout. We can add something to it. We can divide, we can multiply, etc. And we can basically print it to the system out. But it's not too much what we can do with this. Of course, we can manipulate with number, we can do some math with it, but still in a production code, it's not very flexible. So let's use this example. Let's say this is your phone number, and let's just pretend you don't have any other characters except for numbers, and you can store your phone number just as a bunch of digits. So if you have a number, and if you have, let's say, a client in your shop, then you want to store this number for your client. But you have two different situations. You may have a client with a phone number or without. So if you had an int, say phone number, then you cannot just leave it as it is, because if you then will try to say do the phone number +1, then it will be just an error because the variable is not initialized, and you will have a compile time error. That means that we cannot just use this as a phone number, because if a person does not have a phone number, we will have to assign something. We could have assigned -1 or 12 or some number that will represent that this is not an actual phone number. But this is kind of weird because we do not want to use some numbers as a representation of an absentee of a phone number. What does it mean? That means that we are kind of stuck with this approach. But if we had an integer for a phone number, how do you spell integer? Yeah, then we could assign it as a null. And now we can do something like that. Of course, this will fail because this is a null, null +1 is null. Actually, null +1 is null pointer exception, I believe. Let's actually start it and see if it's gonna end up with a null pointer. I believe it will, because if we do some arithmetic with it, it will most likely be a null pointer exception. So let's see what it's gonna output. Yep, a null pointer exception. But with this approach, you have some flexibility. You can say if phone number is null, then just return, just skip. Otherwise, sys out the phone number +1. And with this approach, if you have a null, you will just skip it and you will not have an exception. Let's start it and see if it'll work. Yep, you just have 149 here and that's it. But if you had a number, say this, and you want to add a 1 to it, then you can just go ahead and start it. And let's see if it's gonna work. So it will skip this if statement and we'll just go up to here. Yep, so we have it. And we wouldn't be able to do that with just an int. So this is something that I really like about integer. It allows you to store nulls. So it's kind of makes a number an object. It just objectivizes it, if there is such word. But you may be wondering, how do you like switch between them? And actually it's very easy. Let's say we have int a equals 104, and if we go back here, we can say integer b equals to a. And if we south the b, then it's gonna be just 104. How does it work? It's called an Autoboxing. So since Java 5, I believe, we have a thing called Autoboxing that makes seamless the switch between the primitive and the class types of integers, doubles, etc. So you can basically switch between them, and it will work fine. So you can say int c equals to b, and then print out the c, and it will also work fine because it makes that autoboxing. So autoboxing is just making a primitive a wrapper class. By the way, it's called a wrapper class because it wraps the primitive into it and has some different functions built into it. And back from the wrapper class to the primitive class. And that's really useful in your code. You can do a bunch of this stuff with it. What I prefer is to use primitives whenever I can do it, but whenever I do need to use something like nulls or treat it as an object, for example, to connect to your database, then I'll kind of force to use integer class. And this is basically the difference between those two approaches. You also have like different methods. You can do the byte value, the double value, the float value, the hash code. Basically, it's a class. The integer is a class, and it allows you to make a bunch of different stuff. And I believe you can even reverse this number. Not really sure how, but I actually never used that. But basically, you have just like more flexibility with this. Memory-wise, int is 4 bytes and integer is 16 bytes. So quite an overhead, but if you don't care about it, if it's just an enterprise application, you'll probably get away with using integers in your production code, but it's better to stick to primitives, just in my opinion, whenever you don't need that kind of flexibility. So that was about ints and integers. The same goes for doubles and double, and character and char, boolean and bool, byte and byte, long and long. And is that it? I think there might be one or two more, but basically it's all the same logic, and it's really easy to get used to them. So what I propose you, if you want to learn it more deeply, you can just play around with it, see how it all works in your code, read some bunch of the stuff on the internet, and I guess you'll be quickly used to this transition between integers and ints and other types. Very easy, because it's really intuitive once you put your hands into it. So I hope that has helped you. If any things you wanna say, you can comment out below, or reach out to me on LinkedIn or via email. And I really hope that has helped you. So see you in the next video. Bye guys.